The computers have to do it.
They have videos of me doing this. They have videos of me doing like fucking crazy sex, you know.
How long ago did this happen? You said before you met
This summer, yeah.
So it would have been out already if they...
No. I think that's the president.
They're not that smart.
Oh yeah, they are. He is. He knows. He knows. I've talked about it all the time. I joke about it. Just like that. Say they could octave all the time, repeat the way. And then have some fruit. Now, if they do, he also knows I make like $1 gazillion.
So you're trying to blackmail you?
No, I make like $1 bazillion.
No, but he, the guy who took the computer, so
He'd say,
you want the computer back.
no, like, I'll take all kinds of stuff if you fucking, like, give me a percentage of what you get.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to see him basically nude, but I hope you paid close attention to what they were saying. Now, if this is true, that would mean he has lost as many as 3 laptops. It's quite a bit of laptops. Join me now, representing Florida's 1st Congressional District, Congressman Matt Gaetz. Congressman, I guess I'm like not surprised he has another laptop floating around, but this video is rather disturbing. I don't think it's getting enough attention. And then the people who are talking about it, some on the left, they get really mad. They're like, oh, you're like picking on somebody who has had drug problems at his lowest moment. Yeah, like we have compassion and we feel bad that he had that going on. But that being said, this is the, quote, smartest guy that Joe Biden knows. This is the guy that was making deals with Burisma and working with Chinese officials and other deals. And like we're told that he's some sort of expert in these fields that he was working in when he's not. And he was clearly a mess during that time. And did you hear in the audio where he was talking about he could be making $1 gazillion when his dad would be president? A gazillion, not even just $1 million or $1 billion, like $1 gazillion. I mean, this is really bad stuff here.
Well, it may take $1 gazillion to keep up with some of Hunter Biden's habits. The big story here isn't the weird stuff that Hunter Biden's into. It's that he is functionally the revenue wing of the Biden crime family. Joe Biden gets elected to stuff. Hunter Biden leverages it for economics that benefit both Hunter and the big guy. Remember, that's what Tony Bobulinski taught us. I miss going on social media and seeing Donald Trump and Rand Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene. I opened Twitter this morning and all I saw were nude photos of Hunter Biden. Imagine the disappointment there. But the big story here is that there are powerful forces in our country trying to limit the access of people to information that would inform their decisions. It started when the media and big tech worked together to stop the stories from Hunter Biden's laptop and the Biden family corruption from becoming public, and it persists to this day. I think we're going to have to keep an eye on Hunter Biden, not because of his personal proclivities and dalliances, but because he is actively engaged in selling out our country for personal gain and for gain for the Biden family.
Yeah, and then over and over again, we're told basically not to question the fact that he was sitting on this board of an energy company in Ukraine as if he had some sort of expertise in it. And, we're just supposed to look the other way on that, why he's getting so much money when this guy can hardly function in his own private life. That being said, we're also being told that we need to believe that he's a real artist and that those who are buying his art, that's just a legitimate art deal here and that there's nothing to see. White House says it gets angry when you ask questions about it. And they're like, oh, well, he has the right to make a living. Yeah, he has the right to make a living. But also, if he's going to sell art, they should be transparent about it because we need to know who's buying it and why they're buying it. I'm not buying this whole scam, Hunter Biden's art scam. We know he's not a real artist. Like, I'm not even going to play around with that. You know what I mean?
I've seen macaroni art more compelling than the works of Hunter Biden, and this is obviously part of the grift. They are finding exquisite and unique ways to try to monetize the presidency for their family, and it's not a new grift. They've been working it during the vice presidency of Joe Biden. They were probably working it even during his time in the Senate, and it's why the oversight work has to continue. Let's be honest, Steph. Nobody at the FBI or Department of Justice thinks that the way they're going to make their career is by bringing accountability to the doorstep of Hunter Biden. If anything, people at the FBI and Department of Justice are going to move up by continuing to pursue Donald Trump and bury the Hunter Biden investigation. And that's why, as informed citizens, we have to get this information out. We have to break through the traditional corruption that exists between big government, big media, and big tech to try to manage the things that we see so they could control how we behave. So I'm glad, that there are a number of truths that One American News is trying to expose, whether it was your terrific coverage of Mike Lindell's symposium over these last few days, whether it's been, this focus on why there is a dual standard of justice for the Bidens, or even, what happened on January 6th and our concerns about whether or not elements of the federal government animated some of the worst activities on that day.
Yeah. And I guess what amazes me, too, is the lack of coverage on this. Could you imagine if those videos were of Don Jr. or of you, by the way, they would be losing their minds. And oftentimes I'll see the mainstream media basically fabricate and complete stories about you or about Don Jr. I think I've heard like a million times from the mainstream media or like the trolls on Twitter that Don Jr. is an alcoholic and takes pills and stuff. The guy's sober. Anyone who knows him knows he's sober. He doesn't take pills. He doesn't drink. And so they'll make up all these fantastic stories about you guys because they have nothing. And yet when they have something, they don't cover it.
Well, remember what a CNN director admitted to on a secret recording from Project Veritas. When they see people like me who are effective at stopping the Democrat agenda, they try to propagandize and sensationalize our lives. The truth is, there are a lot of decisions being made by the Biden government right now that are really hurting people, whether it is the inflation, whether it is the Green New Deal that they are executing through this faux infrastructure bill, whether it is the deprivation of workers for our small businesses. So we can't just get distracted in sort of the sensational elements of Hunter Biden's life. We've got to look at the policies of the Biden administration and how they're affecting the kitchen tables and the decisions families are having to make all over this country. And that's why Republicans have to break through, have to get the information out, and have to present a compelling alternative that will lead us back to power in 2022 and beyond.
Yeah, all great points. Now, I want to shift gears and talk about COVID-19. Apparently, the CDC botched Florida's COVID numbers, but not in a good way. It wasn't to benefit Florida. They exaggerated the numbers quite a bit. And many are kind of wondering how that even happened and why that happened. And then obviously Florida officials called them out on it.
Well, in Florida, we've always had a seniors first strategy. It's one of the reasons why the death rate in Florida is a lot lower than in places like New Jersey, where they've had some of the most draconian lockdowns. And certainly we've done better than New York, where they've had nursing homes functioning as a turnstile for COVID patients. That's resulted in a lot of death. So we've been focused on reducing mortality rates, but not limiting the freedom of our citizens. Here's what I know. People vote with their feet ultimately. And as I travel around Florida, no one here wishes they were somewhere else. It's a lot of other places in the country where they wish they were in the state of Florida, enjoying our freedoms and giving our people the personal agency to make their own decisions. And that's not a commentary against vaccines or therapeutics or any other health remedy, but it is a focus on the individual rather than a focus on the collective, which is sort of what the Biden government wants to do with centralized power at the CDC. I mean, Steph, did you ever think we'd live in a day where the CDC makes rent policy in America?
No, I never thought that. And I'm still blown away by it. Totally unconstitutional, totally disturbing, very slippery slope. And I want to be more specific on these numbers in Florida from the CDC. So they recorded on August 8th, 28,317 new cases. But it turns out that number was actually 15,000. So then the CDC agreed to meet the department in Florida in the middle, and they went down to 19,000. So again, why would they inflate the numbers there? It's it makes you wonder what's going on.
Meet in the middle. Yeah, one is right and one is wrong. So the notion that you're just going to meet in the middle continues to erode the credibility of the CDC. Before coronavirus, I think the CDC probably had a lot of credibility with the American people. But as we've seen the numbers change, which you just identified, or the advice change from no masks to wear a mask to wear 2 masks to get the vaccine so you don't have to wear a mask. Now we probably have to wear 3 masks again while getting a shot every month before they're done with the story. And I think that ultimately that is a negative for public health, that they've been all over the place. But certainly the strategy of, well, you have one set of numbers and we have another, so let's meet in the middle, is not something consistent with the scientific method.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've been examining closely how the media covers Florida and also the Democratic attacks on Florida. And so now, too, there's talking heads that are suggesting that there should be some sort of travel ban on Florida. But there's really no reason for it. If you look at some of the other states that actually have higher numbers, wouldn't they put a travel ban on them first? And so, we hear a lot about following the science, but all these people are following political science.
Well, this is about political control, not actual science. I mean, think about it. Florida is so attractive to people. People want to be here so bad. People in Washington are literally thinking about rules to stop people from coming into the state of Florida. Now, of course, tourism presents unique challenges with COVID, and we're working through those with aggressive testing and vaccines available for those who want them. But you cannot deprive people of the privileges and immunities that come with United States citizenship by saying they can't go to a particular place of their choosing. That's decided law, and it just shows how petty and how wrong and how controlling some of these bureaucrats are in Washington who think that they have the right to tell you where you can and cannot go on vacation. Give me a break. Florida man will never put up with that.
Yeah. And I saw this too, and I found this to be very concerning. So in Canada, their health minister says that COVID-related restrictions could last for years. And the reason I'm worried about that is because Democrats here see that, and that's like a blueprint for them. Why would somebody make that prediction? I mean, most of us are waking up like hoping we're going to be turning the page on COVID. These people are like hoping and praying that this goes on for years.
Well, think about it. If you're in public health, this is the zenith of power and control you have ever had. And so they don't want to give that power and control up. And this is a universal value, unfortunately, across the entire enterprise of government. Whenever a bureaucratic agency gets more power, they are very reticent to ever surrender it back to the people. And that's why we have to fight so vigorously to ensure that people are able to make their own choices. I do believe that coronavirus will be around for years. That's scientifically based on the fact that there are animal reservoirs for this virus to return back to. But that doesn't mean that we have to take these lockdowns and extend them. If anything, I think we've learned that, states like New Jersey, New York, California that have had these lockdowns haven't had markedly better survivability rates. They haven't had markedly better health outcomes across the board. All they've done is really limited the development and growth and economic success of their people. Not enough has been said about the damage these lockdowns cause to people's mental health, issues like addiction, issues like domestic abuse. And my hope is that we'll get out of this and we'll become that nation we saw under President Trump, where we were productive and ambitious and wanting to be the best version of our country to inspire the rest of the world.
Absolutely. And you're so right. The virus isn't going to just disappear overnight. We have to learn how to live with it. But also we want to do things that make sense, that are actually based on science, not just what Dr. Fauci feels like saying when he wakes up in the morning and then changes his mind the next day. So we just want to make sure it makes sense. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that things are very weird when it comes from the CDC and how many times the World Health Organization has gotten it wrong. So that's why a lot of us are skeptical, and we're getting kind of tired of having our freedom taken away. Well, Congressman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Of course.